The Committee on Budget Appropriations and Finance meeting of May 21st, 2024 is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, can I have the roll call, please?
Senator Marvin A. Blyden. Senator Blyden, present. Senator Samuel L. Carrion. Senator Carrion. Absent. Senator Wayne M. DeGraff. Senator DeGraff, absent. Senator Ray Fonseca. Senator Fonseca, present. Senator Donna A. Fred Gregory.
Here.
Senator Fred Gregory, present. Senator Novell E. Francis Jr. Senator Francis Jr., absent. Senator Javon E. James Sr.
Present.
Senator James Sr., present. Madam Chair, 4 present, 3 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. A quorum has been established. Can you please read, do we have any correspondence to be read into the record?
Yes, Madam Chair.
You may proceed.
Correspondence dated May 21st, 2024. Honorable Donna A. Fred Gregory, Chair, Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, Charlotte Amalie, St. Thomas, VI 00804. Dear Senator Fred Gregory, I am writing to advise you that I will be tardy for today's meeting of the Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance, as I will be attending the ceremony naming the St. Croix bypass in honor of Aloy Wenty Nielsen. I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience my tardiness may cause, and thank you in advance for your understanding. Regards, Novell E. Francis Jr., Senate President, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Correspondence dated May 21st, 2024. The Honorable Donna Fred Gregory, Chairperson, Committee on Budget, Appropriations, and Finance, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, Charlotte Amalie, St. Thomas, VI 00802. Dear Chairperson Fred Gregory, please be advised that I will be unable to attend the Committee on Budget, Appropriations, and Finance budget hearing set for 10 a.m. Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, at the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall due to a previously scheduled engagement. Thank you in advance for your understanding in this matter. Sincerely, Dwayne M. DeGraff, Minority Leader, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Correspondence dated May 21st, 2024. Honorable Donna A. Fred Gregory, Chairwoman, Committee on Budget, Appropriations, and Finance, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, Charlotte Amalie, P.O. Box 1690, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, 00804. Dear Chairwoman Fred Gregory, I will be late to today's Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance meeting, which begins at 10 a.m. in the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall in St. Thomas. Please accept my apologies for my tardiness. I look forward to joining the meeting as soon as I arrive. Your patience and understanding will be greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Samuel Carrion, Senator, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands. That ends the reading of the correspondence.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please read today's agenda into the record?
The 35th Legislature Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance will meet on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, at 10 a.m. in the Earl B. Otley Legislative Chambers on St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. Block 1. Bill number 35-0261, an act approving the lease agreement between the Government of the Virgin Islands and Dale Brown and Yvette Brown, DBA, Seja Farm of the Virgin Islands for plot number 9-P, Estate Vicor Plans, Prince Quarter, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Sponsored by Senate President Novell E. Francis Jr. by request of the Governor. Invited testifiers, Mrs. Lisa T. Alejandro, Commissioner, Department of Property and Procurement. Mr. Dale Brown and Miss Yvette Brown, owner, Seja Farms of the Virgin Islands. Bill number 35-0255, an act approving the multi-year lease agreement between the Government of the Virgin Islands, acting through its Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement, and Rumina Construction, LLC, for parcels number 92A, revised submarine base, number 6, Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to operate an equipment and material storage depot yard, construction company office, and other related purposes. Sponsored by Senate President Novell E. Francis Jr. by request of the Governor. Invited testifiers, Mrs. Lisa T. Alejandro, Commissioner, Department of Property and Procurement. Mr. Franklin Victor, President, Rumina Construction, LLC. Bill number 35-0262, an act appropriating $1,434,950 in fiscal year 2024 from the Community Facilities Trust Fund for the pre-construction soft cost funding to prepare the Charlotte-Amalie Harbor for dredging. Sponsored by Senate President Novell E. Francis Jr. by request of the Governor. Invited testifiers, Mr. Carlton Dow, Executive Director, Virgin Islands Port Authority. Mr. Kevin McCurdy, Executive Director, Virgin Islands Public Finance Authority. Block 2. The Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance will receive testimony from the government's financial team on the financial overview of the Government of the Virgin Islands, to include but not limited to fiscal year 2024 budget appropriations versus revenue collections to date, total allotments to date, projected revenues through September 30th, 2024, and proposed adjustments for fiscal year 2024 due to revenue shortfalls, if any, status on union negotiations, and status of outstanding payments due to vendors for fiscal year 2023. Invited testifiers, Ms. Jennifer O'Neill, Director, Office of Management and Budget. Mr. Kevin McCurdy, Commissioner, Department of Finance. Mr. Joel Lee, Director, Virgin Islands Bureau of Internal Revenue. Mr. Ira A. Mills, Tax Assessor, Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Mr. Brent Leardom, Tax Collector, Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Ms. Cindy Richardson, Director, Division of Personnel. Ms. Joss Springett, Esquire, Chief Negotiator, Office of Collective Bargaining. Madam Chair, that is the end of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And we are prepared to proceed. I do see the testifiers from the Department of Property and Procurement, Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, Vincent Richards. I see Mr. Dale Brown and Mrs. Yvette Brown, the owner of Seja Farms. I also see Mr. Carlton Dow, Executive Director of the Virgin Islands Port Authority, and Mr. Franklin. You're Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin Victor, President of Rumina Construction, LLC. I, however, do not see the Executive Director for the Virgin Islands Public Finance Authority. We are considering a measure today with regards to the dredging of our harbor. We recently appropriated, I can't remember how much million, $17 million for the dredging of our harbor, and there is some additional $1.4 million that's needed that should come from that. The ask is those funds come from the Community Facilities Trust Fund. However, I'm not seeing anyone from the government's financial team, specifically the Executive Director, by virtue of his position, Mr. Kevin McCurdy, is not in attendance. I am not inclined to proceed with Bill number 35-0262, absent of the representatives of the government that has to speak to whether or not the 1.434950 is in fact available to be expended from the Community Facilities Trust Fund for these purposes. I'm certain that we are in full support of this measure. However, the continuous disrespect of the executive branch and not showing up for these types of important matters, I will not tolerate in my committee. So I'm going to ask for a motion to remove Bill number 35-0262 from today's agenda. Senator Blyden, you're recognized for your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 35-0262, an act appropriating $1,434,950 in fiscal year 2024 from the Community Facilities Trust Fund for the pre-construction self-cost funding to prepare for the Charlotte and Marley Harbor for dredging be removed from today's agenda. I so move.
The motion to remove Bill number 35-0262 from today's agenda has been properly moved by Senator Marvin Blyden, seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca. Hearing no objections, so ordered. I'm going to call for a quick recess to allow, first of all, let me apologize to Mr. Dow and his team because they are here. We've already received testimony, Mr. Dow, from you with regards to the importance of the dredging of our harbor. We know that it's a major economic driver for the Virgin Islands. While it is the district harbor in St. Thomas, it is a major economic driver that supports the revenues, that support the work that we do here and support all of the services that we provide here in the territory. So I'm going to allow you an opportunity to speak, and then we're going to go to a recess, and hopefully the next time we put this on the agenda, they will show up. Absent of the government providing the information, unfortunately, we cannot continue to move in this direction in this institution, and particularly not in my committee. You may proceed, Mr. Dow.
Thank you, and good morning to all senators present and the listening and viewing. I just want to, and my Director of Engineering, Preston Bayer, and everybody. But I also want to put on record that so all of us could recognize the impact and importance of this. The fact that every day that we delay this soft-cost money, it's not running days and months into us being able to do this dredging. I just want to make sure we abundantly clear with what impact and what this means. The Port Authority have already expended some monies towards this dredging project. We are permitting a whole host of things that this money should take care of. So every day this don't happen, the folks are calling and clamoring why the dredging is starting. Well, it's going to, this here, today, will impact the start date. So I hope that all of us could quickly get back together and deal with this matter as soon as possible, because it's really have their impact on when, in fact, this dredging can start. So I really appreciate all of you and the time that you spent today.
All right, well, again, I apologize for us having to make the decisions that we have to make, but absent of the clear financials, I don't know that it will be responsible of us to make any decisions today with regards to this particular matter. All right, so we're going to go to a 2-minute recess to allow the testifiers from the Virgin Islands Port Authority to vacate the chambers. The committee stands in recess for 2 minutes. committee is back on the record, and we are going to, we have the testifiers here before us, but before we do that, I need to ask who speaks to Bill number 35-0261.
I do, Madam Chair.
You may proceed, Senator Blyden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here to introduce Bill number 35-0261, sponsored by Senate President Novel E. Francis Jr. by request of the Governor, an act approving a lease agreement between the Virgin Islands government and Dale and Yvette Brown, doing business as Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands for plot number 9, P Estate VI Corp's Land, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, Virgin Islands. This proposed measure is offered, as already stated by the President. The agreement is for a multi-year lease of 20 years with an option to renew for one additional 10-year term. Dale and Yvette Brown have owned and operated Sager Farm since 1998. As farmers, agricultural advocates, conservationists, and educators, they have been leaders in developing our local agricultural industry and promoting food sustainability. This lease will allow Sager Farm to continue livestock and crop on its 15-acre in Castleburg. This lease also allows for the property to be used for related purposes. Sager Farm has a farm stand. They host the annual Bush Cook Chef, which is a community farm-to-table event that highlights locally sourced meat and produce, and also has an agricultural learning center where they provide access to learn methods in soil improvement, animal husbandry, food preservation, and value-added food production. Ultimately, this lease will allow Dale and Yvette Brown, the owners and operators of Sager Farm, to continue their important work in the territory. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that introduction. Do you want me to introduce the next bill? Also?
Thank you. Who speaks to Bill number 35-0255?
I do, Madam Chair.
You may proceed, Senator Blyden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill number 35-0255, sponsored by Senate President Novel Francis by request of the Governor, an act approving the multi-year lease agreement between the Government of the Virgin Islands, acting through its Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement, and Momina Construction, LLC, for parcel number 92A, revised submarine base number 6, Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to operate an equipment and material storage depot yard, construction company office, and other related purposes. This proposed measure is offered again by the Senate President. The agreement is for a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options to be renewed. This lease supports the operation of a local small business which provides a necessary service to the community, particularly as we are engaged in many recovery-related construction projects, to include housing, as we know we have a housing crisis. And they are good corporate citizens, and they also employ many local residents in the territory. So I'm asking for your support on these 2 most important measures on today's agenda. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Blyden. And also let me take this opportunity to recognize the presence of non-committee member Maurice James. Thank you for being here, Senator James. All right, so we do have the testifiers here with us this morning, and we're going to start with the testifiers for Bill number 35-0261, Mr. Dale Brown and Ms. Yvette Brown, and the Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement, Mr. Vincent Richards. So I'm going to ask Mr. Richards to please put your name and title on the record.
Vincent Richards, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Property and Procurement.
All right, thank you. And also Mr. Dale Brown, please put your name on the record.
Brown, owner of Seja Farm.
And Miss Yvette Brown.
Ed Brown, owner, Sage Farm of the Virgin Islands.
All right, thank you. We're now going to the bill number 35-0255. Mr. Franklin Victor, President of Romina Construction, could you please put your name on the record?
Franklin Victor, President of Romina Construction.
Thank you, and I see that you have a beautiful young lady there with you. Can you also put your name and association on the record?
Jemilat Victor, Admin Assistant, Romina Construction.
Jemina Victor, Romina Construction. All right, so we're going to start with the testifiers for 35-0261. We're going to hear these two measures in one block, and we will begin with Mr. Vincent Richards of the Department of Property and Procurement, and then we'll hear from the owners of Seja Farms of the Virgin Islands. You may proceed, Mr. Richards.
Good morning, Committee Chair Donna A. Fred Gregory, Vice Chair Novelli Francis Jr., committee members, Senators Blyden, Carrion, DeGraff, Fonseca, and James Sr., non-committee members, central and legislative staff, fellow testifiers, visitors present in the chambers, and members of the listening and viewing audience. I am Vincent Richards, Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement. I'm here today on behalf of Commissioner Lisa M. Alejandro to testify on the proposed lease agreements for the St. Thomas and St. Croix District, currently before the committee for consideration. I humbly request this committee and ultimately the full Senate's approval of the lease agreements between the Government of the Virgin Islands and Romina Construction LLC and Dale Brown and Yvette Brown doing business at Seja Farms of the Virgin Islands. These lease agreements require legislative approval in accordance with 31 Virgin Islands Code, subsection 205C. Their terms are all commence on the first day of the month following the approval of the governor and the legislature of the Virgin Islands. As a premises owner, the Department of Property and Procurement will be required to execute all permits, licenses required for the premises. These two potential lessees have provided the required documentation to support the processing of their lease agreements with the government, including but not limited to their business license and the certificates of good standing. The lease agreement between Romina Construction and the Government of the Virgin Islands is for revised parcel number 92A, submarine base, number 6, Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, United States Virgin Islands, consisting of approximately 30,882 square feet or 0.71 U.S. acres of unimproved land, more or less. The property will be used to operate an equipment, a construction equipment and a material storage depot yard, as well as an office, and for other permitted purposes. The term of the agreement is for 10 years, and the lease agreement provides for 2 additional 5-year renewal options. The annual rent for the above-mentioned parcel will be $24,000 payable in equal monthly installments of $2,000 during the term of the lease. The rent payable under the lease shall be adjusted annually, provided including any renewal term in accordance with the Consumer Price Index, increases established by the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. This lease agreement requires a minimum of $1 million in all limits and public liability coverage. The lease agreement between Seja Farms and the Government of the Virgin Islands is for plot number 9-9P, Estate VI Core Land, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, United States Virgin Islands, consisting of approximately 655,395.48 U.S. square feet or 15.0458 U.S. acres, more or less. The property would be used for crop and livestock production. The term of this agreement is for 20 years, and the lease agreement provides for an additional 10-year renewal option. The annual rent for the above referenced parcel per VI code will be $225.69 during the term of the lease. Pardon me. These proposed lease agreements will allow the prospective tenants to utilize and improve the properties and return them to the government of the Virgin Islands at the end of the lease terms in improved conditions. If approved, these leases will allow these two locally owned businesses to improve operations and plan expansions. These businesses will continue to contribute to the local food security and the ongoing reconstruction and recovery of the United States Virgin Islands. The Department of Property and Procurement and Lisa M. Alejandro respectfully request that this Committee on Budget, Appropriation, and Finance, and ultimately the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, vote in favor of these proposed lease agreements. This concludes my prepared testimony. I'm prepared to answer any questions the committee may have on the reference lease agreements. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Who testifies on behalf of Sager Farms?
I will speak on behalf of Sager Farm.
You may proceed, Mrs. Brown.
Good morning, Senator Donna Fred Gregory, Chair of Committee Budget, Appropriation, and Finance, and to all members of this committee of the 35th Legislature, and a blessed good morning to the people of the Virgin Islands. I am glad to be testifying on Bill number 35-0261, an act approving the lease agreement between the Government of the Virgin Islands and Dale and Yvette Brown, doing business as Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands, plot number 9-P Estate Vicorp Land, Prince Quarters, St. Croix, Virgin Islands. Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands is also known as Sager, was established in 1998 and is owned and operated by Dale and Yvette Brown. Located on Casper Holstein Drive, we manage 31 acres of farmland, with 15 acres currently in production and 16 acres under development. Our 15-acre production area includes 10 acres dedicated to grazing for sheep and goats, 3 acres used for organic crop production, and 1 acre allocated for restarting poultry, meat, and eggs production. We operate an on-farm market and raises boar goats, boar goat crosses, St. Croix white sheep, Dorper crosses for sale. Sager Farm produces local fresh meat and vegetables to meet both local and off-island demands. Additionally, we provide agricultural technical assistance, seminars, education, training, and consultations services to farmers and the community. Developing a local island food system is a challenge, but it is one that we at Sager Farm are committed to taking on as part of the island's agricultural resurgence. The territory's agricultural industry has been largely without significant government support for over 59 years. To address this, our community must encourage farmers to increase their production, which can help reduce the need to import certain products. To successfully develop a local island food system, we need to focus on 2 of several key areas. First, marketing local products require a consistent supply of commodities to ensure availability to the community. Second, we must increase local food consumption by promoting the benefits and availability of locally produced food. This dual approach will help build a sustainable and resilient local food system. Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands is a partnership farm enterprise managed by Dale and Yvette Brown, who collectively have extensive knowledge of the industry. Located on the island of St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, our farm is dedicated to increasing and improving the standard and quality of the Virgin Islands agricultural production. Our mission includes promoting local food, developing local food system, increasing marketing opportunities, fostering local food economic development, and ensuring healthy food access for all. We are committed to agricultural education, advocating for resurgence of the U.S. Virgin Islands agricultural industry, combating climate change through best conservation practices, protecting our island's environmental development, and strengthening local food production and supplies. Sager Farm serves as a model farm, promoting advanced agricultural production and marketing techniques. Our operations are exclusively focused on encouraging the territory's agricultural industry, contributing to its growth and sustainability. Mission statement: our mission is to produce the finest quality raised meat, lamb, goat, chicken, eggs, and organic vegetable in the U.S. Virgin Islands to meet local market demand. We aim to exceed customers' expectation in standards, quality, deliverability, and cost through continuous improvement and customer interactions. Sager Farm is in the business of agriculture, which encompasses the science, art, and practices of cultivating soil and farming animals, plant, fungi, and other live forms for food, fiber, biofuel, drugs, and other products used to sustain and enhance human life and our community. Our operations include the growing and production of crops and the raising of livestock, as well as various degrees of preparation and marketing of the resulting diverse products. Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands is an agricultural enterprise dedicated to revitalizing the business of agriculture with a primary focus on farming in the U.S. Virgin Islands. While farming is our main concentration and foundation of our work, it represents just one area of broader agricultural industry that we are committed to enhancing and supporting. Sager Farm has been dedicated to farming and researching the needs for increased production and local food consumption in the Virgin Islands for the past 18 years. We understand that moving beyond the embryonic stage is vital to the development of our work. Developing a farm enterprise that meets the demand for fresh, locally grown produce, herbs, meat, and eggs is extremely important and necessary. This development is indispensable to the continuing effectiveness and survival of Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands, as well as overall growth and sustainability of our territory's agriculture. Agriculture in the Virgin Islands has gained a poor reputation for income generation, dependability, and marketing significant local social and economic contributions. This situation is largely due to the local government failure to fulfill its responsibilities to regulate and oversee the agricultural industry, ensuring its economic viability. The U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture has effectively executed the territory's law or incorporated them into its budgetary responsibilities. As a result, farmers have been left with no choice but to operate in survival mode, struggling to sustain their operation without adequate support or oversight. However, the timing for participating, excuse my language, a change to this reputation is both timely and vital. Improving the image of local food availability and accessibility is necessary to attract markets, increase farmers' income, and develop new market opportunities. This will enhance our local food system and food security. An informed market about local agricultural products can significantly benefit other food enterprises and create employment opportunities for farmers market, value-added product producers, food distributors, retailers, wholesalers, and the entire Virgin Islands community. By promoting and supporting local agriculture, we can build a strong, more resilient food economy that benefits everyone within the territories. Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands play a crucial role in our agricultural industry through its effort to increase local food production, market, and distribute locally grown food through the Virgin Islands. By focusing on these key areas, Sager Farm can make a significant difference in assisting the social and economic resurgence of our territories. Through increased local food production, Sager Farm helps to reduce reliance on imported goods, thereby contributing to the territory's food security and self-sufficiency. By marketing and distributing locally grown food, Sager Farm promotes awareness and appreciation for locally sourced produce, supporting the growth of the local agricultural sector. Furthermore, Sager Farm's activities create economic opportunities for farmers, producers, distributors, and retailers across the U.S. Virgin Islands. By strengthening the local food system and promoting sustainable agricultural practices, Sager Farm contributes to the overall resilience and prosperity of our community. In summary, Sager Farms, dedicated to increasing local food production, marketing, and distribution, plays a vital role in social and economic resurgence. Through the efforts, Sager Farm helps to build a more resilient and settled future for the Virgin Islands. The approval of Bill number 350261 to lease 9P and 9P, and I may elaborate of the testimony that I realized that the Assistant Commissioner did not emphasize that it's two plots that Sager Farm is requesting the confirmation of lease for 9P and 9B within the same destination and area, Castleberg, would signify an endorsement of the ongoing work at Sager Farm and a commitment to furthering agriculture as a social and economic development opportunity in the territory. This lease agreement would provide Sager Farm with the necessary resource and support to continue in efforts in increasing local food production, marketing, and distribution, thereby contributing to the revitalization of agricultural industry in the Virgin Islands. By granting this lease, the government demonstrates its recognition of the importance of supporting local farmers and promoting sustainable agricultural practices. It would enable Sager Farm to expand its operation, increase its impact on the local economy, and further its mission of enhancing food security and promoting community resilience. In conclusion, the approval of Bill number 350261 will not only benefit Sager Farm, but also serve as a significant step towards realizing the potential of agriculture as a drive for social and economic development in the territory. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I'm going to go now to Romina Construction. Who speaks on behalf of Romina Construction, LLC? Please recognize the mic of Mr. Victor. Speak one more time.
Franklin Victor.
You may proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Committee Chairwoman, the Honorable Donna Fred Gregory, committee members and Honorable Senators Blyden, Carrion, DeGraff, Ansika, Francis, and James. Good morning to fellow testifiers, legislative staff, and viewing or listening audience. I am Franklin Victor, General Manager and owner of Romina Construction, LLC. I am here with my wife, Jamilat Victor. We have been married for 13 plus years and have been blessed with 4 children, Franklin, Michael, Eric, and Esfeti. My wife is one of Romina's project estimator and also involved in decision-making process for the business. Romina Construction is a minority-owned and family-managed business, general and civil construction company. The history of the company dates back to when I started my first construction business as Franklin Victor Maintenance, which later became Romina Construction in 2008. We have more than 29 years experience in construction business. Romina Construction had and is currently involved in several hurricane recovery construction projects throughout the island of St. Thomas. Romina Construction on September 10, 2023, entered into a 1-year lease agreement with the government of the Virgin Islands and the Department of Property and Procurement for parcel number 92A Submarine Base, number 6 Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, consists of approximately 30,882 U.S. square feet or 0.71 U.S. acre of unimproved land. During this period, we have done debris removal, light excavation, installed a mobile office building, constructed an equipment maintenance shed, installed lighting camera, and currently installing security fence. To date, we have invested almost $100,000 in site preparations, improvements, and upgrade. It's our desire to enter in a long-term lease agreement with the government of the Virgin Islands and the Department of Property and Procurement that is currently under consideration. We will continue to use this lease premises to operate an equipment and material storage yard, office, and other related purposes. This proposed long-term lease agreement will provide the needed stability to operate now and to expand while planning future projects. Without this property, Romina Construction will not be able to continue participating in multiple of recovery construction projects. This concludes my testimony, and I am respectfully asking that this committee and ultimately the full body approve the lease agreement. Thank you, and I am available to answer any question.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Victor. Let me also recognize the presence of committee member Senator Samuel Carrion. Please mark Senator Carrion as present. All right. Mrs. Brown made reference to 9P and B in her testimony. Correct, Mrs. Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
However, the documentation with regards to this particular measure only speaks to plot number 9P Estate via Corp Lands, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, Virgin Islands. So I need to get some clarification from the Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement as it relates to what's before us.
Vincent Richards, Property and Procurement. Senate Committee Chair Fred Gregory, the lease that's before us references and describes the premises as plot number 9-P Estate VI Core Lands, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. It has a map number, it has the acreage on there, and all the pages on the agreement is initialed by the lessee, and all the parties to the agreement. So
where is the confusion coming in? Because we need to clarify that before we move forward on this particular lease. So you are of the position that the government of the Virgin Islands is leasing plot number 9P Estate VI Corp Land.
yes, ma'am.
And Mrs. Brown represented in her testimony 9P Estate VI Corp Land and 9B. So we need to get some clarification on that. Mrs. Brown, please explain, is it that these two pieces of parcels are attached that gives adjacent is a word that's consistent of the 655,395.048 U.S. acres, square feet, or 15 U.S. acres?
Mr. Brown would answer that question.
Yes, please.
Good morning. Okay, in respect to the properties, one is the existing, and also there's a...
Yep, please speak into the mic, Mr. Brown. We're having a hard time hearing you.
There is an expanded property just as well that is 9B. I've worked on that with property and procurement, and we were expecting that it would have been incorporated into the lease agreement just as well. because there has been all requirements met for those properties. If you look specifically on the lease, on the business license, it states 9P and 9B, and that is what we were referring to.
Okay, so naturally, when you agree with the Department of Property and Procurement, you would sign a lease document, correct? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
So the lease document represents what? I don't have the lease in front of me, the actual.
Lease document
So
represents 9P. But we have been working with property and procurement that
Okay,
before this hearing, that it will have also included 9B.
Okay, so what we have before us, because I want to make sure that the record is very clear as to what the legislature is approving today. So today, the legislature is approving 9-P. That's what the legislature is approving. The other conversations and discussions that you're having with the Department of Property and Procurement, naturally that will have to come after. Is 9P already property that you are currently utilizing? And
Yes.
so that's where you're currently utilizing. So the approval
Correct.
of that does not give you the additional acreage, if you will, that you are seeking to utilize to expand the farming, your farming business.
It will not, if we look at what is before us, it will not be a lease for that additional property, but we are in possession of the property.
Okay, so Mr. Richards, to help us to clear up this apparent misunderstanding or somewhat confusion that's occurring as we move forward with this particular lease. And then I will go to my colleagues.
Senator Gregory, these agricultural leases are prepared by the Department of Agriculture and forwarded the Department of Property and Procurement for further processing, and we have processed the agreement that we have in front of us that's been signed by all the parties, and I stand by the agreement that we have in front of us. I can inquire about this afterwards, and if there needs to be an amendment or additional property added to the lease agreement or for this entity, I'm pretty sure that the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Property and Procurement will be happy to support an amendment and or additional properties to this organization, this entity.
So what's the number? The 655,395.048 US square feet or 15 acres, more or less. That's what is inclusive of 9-P Estate VA Co-op land.
Yes, Senator.
All right. Okay, so we have cleared that up. So it means that there's additional work that needs to be done with the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Property and Procurement, and the owners of Sager Farms in order to move forward with 9-B. That is not inclusive of what we're discussing today. So I want us to make sure that we are clear on that so there is no inherent confusion around this. All right. Colleagues, these leases that we have before us are very straightforward. We've heard from the owners of both entities who's seeking to get leases from the government of the Virgin Islands to operate their businesses. And we know the importance of economic development, any type of economic development in the Virgin Islands. And we also know the importance of growing our agriculture industry in the territory. As a sponsor of the agriculture plan, I am excited whenever I see individuals coming down to the legislature to get their properties approved for agriculture. So there were some things that were shared today with regards to agriculture in Mrs. Brown's testimony, and I will kind of drill on that as we proceed with this discussion. So, senators, we're going to go to let's see, we have two, we're going to go to a 4-minute round. We're going to go to a 4-minute round, and we're going to begin with Senator Marvin Blyden. Senator Blyden, you may proceed with your 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning again to the people of the Virgin Islands, my colleagues, viewing, listening audiences, staff, central staff, and the testifiers. And thank you so much for your testimonies. Sager Farm, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Ms. Brown, you did a pretty good job on behalf of Sager Farm. Your testimony was on point. Let me ask you several questions in respect to your testimony. You said in terms of the challenges in the industry, because we know food security is a problem here in the territory, and agriculture is critical and important to us here on an island. And you spoke about a local food system, and you mentioned in your testimony also you talk about marketing, the local products, you talk about different techniques, you talk about the benefits and availability of your products, and you talked about access. Can you speak briefly in a nutshell to us, please, in respect to Sager Farm, and what do you see coming from your perspective that can assist us in moving the needle forward when it comes to local farming in the territory? Briefly.
Good morning again, Senator.
Morning.
In reference to you talk about the food system, one of my biggest advocacy work is around the fact that when it comes to a territory and a Caribbean territory, I, in myself, do not believe that we have a conductive food system in the Virgin Islands that focus around food security and food sovereignty. Our dependency on 98% of what we consume to come in, to be shipped into us, gives room to what my statement, because without those shipments, we do not have the substance to maintain ourselves. And we are open to that Pandora every time we are hit by some sort of natural disaster in the territory, and our food system is challenged through those areas and avenues. So I am an advocate around us building as a Virgin Islands territories that we need to focus on how we're going to rebuild our food system and create a food security system and committee that focus on maintaining some sort of percentage of our food system within the territories, that in case of disasters, we have the ability to keep our community safe when it comes to subsistence.
So based on...
Pass over to Mr. Brown.
Sure. Before I go to... Okay, go ahead, Mr. Brown, then I'm going to follow up. Please.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
Okay.
With my response.
When we talk about food security, actually the Virgin Island does not have a local food system. So building one is a challenge. And what that requires is that the first regulatory agency or part of government that creates that is not up to that challenge. And that's the Department of Agriculture. If we are talking about food security, today our abattoir is closed indefinitely. So therefore, that's a big challenge. In addition, the department does not have, at this time, a veterinarian. So therefore, livestock farmers here in the territory is at a disadvantage. Now, when we're talking about importation of food, we have 97% plus that are import food, but yet still we don't know the number of that 97% or what it's cost or what it's worth. And the 3% that we produce, we don't know what that is worth either. So therefore, that in itself shows us that we have no control of the import food that we are getting in on a regular basis to actually mitigate or put in place or even begin to say we need to have X amount of food stored in times of emergency or to how we go about mitigating and having that as a resiliency for the people of the Virgin Islands.
Very well said, Mr. Brown. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, if I may conclude, because that's a great place to start in terms of the 97%, what the value of the 97% and the 3%. But saying all that, let me ask you in my final statement in respect to bringing us up to point in terms of the workers. We know in terms of farming and agriculture, we really don't have the bodies. I believe that's a big part. Can you speak to that, please, in terms of the labor and what that looks like from your perspective and your operation? Do we have enough? Do we need more? And what's happening in that space?
Senator, we do need more. The problem is that where we left off, we have not regained that. And that's education. And what we have focused on agriculture around is that it's demeaning. It is not fitting for anyone, but yet still is the bottom of the totem pole that holds up all the images or careers within the territory or within the world itself. So therefore, we need to revisit the understanding that the importance of agriculture and the importance of agriculture career is urgent and is pertinent to the development of the industry itself. One of the things that we do at Sager Farm annually, and it's a summer program, and that is educate the students that take part of our summer camp. And that is in conjunction with the Department of Labor, Human Services, and LEPC. And that is to educate our students how their food arrives at their plate. And that in itself give them the motion of seeing food produced from the seed to harvest, post-harvest, and the culinary that prepares the food for their consumption.
Thank you so much for your response. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the leniency.
Thank you, Senator Blayden. You're going to get me in trouble today. I'm going to have to give everybody 8 minutes. Of course, this meeting is not really to discuss what's happening in the Virgin Islands around agriculture. However, the conversation is always ripe to be had. So I'm happy that Senator Blayden opened the door for the discussion because the legislature passed Act number 8716 in 2023. I think about April of 2023. And we funded the act, a portion of the act, in January of 2023 as well. One of the requirements of the act plan, based on the plan that was presented to the legislature, is actually the Farm and Food Council was approved in 2023 of April. And that's 1 year later. We are in May of 23. And there are 11 members of that council. 6 are government appointed, and six are government officials, and 5 are appointed. And to date, not one person has come down to the legislature for approval. So I understand your frustration, Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brown, because if we are talking agriculture, it cannot just be talk. We have to get to the action. So, there was a lot of work put in on, moving this along, and we are hoping that the executive branch will do what is necessary. I don't know what the challenge is. Many times, you can't really find people to sit on these boards. I don't know what it is. The mere fact that it came up today again, we definitely will look into it to determine exactly why we have not seen, 1 year later, the establishment of the Food and Farm Council in a meaningful and effective way, or a way that this discussion and the work, rather, around agriculture can move forward here in the territory. So I want to thank Senator Blayden for pointing that out, and definitely Mrs. Brown for sharing it in her testimony, because sometimes, and I know they feel like they're the Lone Rangers, there's no support for the work that they're doing that's so important to our food sustainability here in the territory, which we have no excuse as you drive through the Island District of St. Croix in particular, and you see the vast amount of farmland. There is no really excuse that we have as to why we have not made this industry a priority in the Virgin Islands, particularly in the Island District of St. Croix. So, we need to make sure that we beat the drum on this and find out exactly what's happening with all that work that was done in establishing the Ag Plan and the Food and Farm Council members. Senator James, you're recognized for your 4 minutes. Senator Javon James Sr.
Greetings to the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time. I'm not going to drag it as far as the Department of Agriculture conversation, but just wanted to put it out there that we plan to hold a meeting soon to bring in those individuals and stakeholders, specifically the Department of Agriculture, to answer some questions. The last time we held one, there were some hiccups, and they got away, but this time, they better come ready. But as far as the lease, I am happy to know that property and procurement, that they are doing their thing. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Vincent Richards, for following through, because every time I see him, he says, Senator, I walking on the thing them, I say, which thing them? The lease them. So I'm happy to see this lease come down. I'm looking forward to seeing some more. But of course, I know the department has to do their due diligence. As far as the one issue that came before us with putting the 2 properties, no need for me to really ask any questions because Mr. Richards said that can be dealt with. So I just want to say congratulations in advance, and I look forward to seeing more farmers coming down here with their leasing agreements. And as far as the other item on the agenda, I have no questions as well. I stand in full support. They're straightforward. With that said, like I said, June, we're scheduling a hearing, and I hope they don't come with an excuse saying that they can't make it. With that said, budget hearing is coming up, and I look forward to the discussions to make sure that those areas that need fine-tuning will be fine-tuned, and that's why we have the good finance chair who will steer that ship for us. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator James. Senator Fonseca, you're recognized for your 4 minutes.
Yes, thank you so kindly, Madam Chair, and pleasant good morning to all the distinguished testifiers, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, and also Mr. and Mrs. Victor. You know, Madam Chair, I agree with you. This is not really an agricultural meeting, but I have so much questions for Mr. Brown, right? Because I'm very, very interested. I was looking at your business plan here, right? You had the head, right? You had 120 head and 240 kids, and you had a 50% lamb loss. Explain to me what happened. Is a sickness, a illness, or theft? What happened there?
Good afternoon. What year was that?
This was your business plan, the one that's submitted on the lease. It is page 25.
Oh, okay. That business plan is also in revising. But I think I know exactly what you're talking about. 2015, we had a drought. That drought lasted for, I think, 9 months. And we lost quite a bit of kids because it was more important to maintain the adults So if we lost the kids, then that would have been one of the problems. We also had a drought again in 2021 that lasted for 2 years. And then we just came out of another drought that ended in November of last year.
Okay, so do you get, in a case of a drought, do you get a federal grant? Does the local government replenish your stock, or you just have to wing that on your own?
I totally agree with Senator Fred Gregory, and I was trying to avoid this kind of conversation because then it's
because it's important. Because if you have a drought,
I will answer. The government of the Virgin Islands, the Department of Agriculture, cannot and have not assisted farmers from 2015 drought, nor any of the droughts that we have gone through. Monies that have been acquired by any farmer has been through the legislature. And that is just a big drop in the bucket.
Okay.
I've known farmers who have actually stopped farming because of the drought, or those that have actually given up. Now, the USDA, Farm Service Agency, they have been extending themselves on different programs from the programs from the USDA itself. But again, because of limited acre, how small our acreages are, those funding generally comes in late, and it's definitely
30
geared
seconds.
towards and not goat.
Okay.
And oftentimes farmers would have to have non-crop insurance from FSA.
okay, good. You know, you produce lamb, right? You produce lamb.
Lamb and goat.
Yeah. You know, that's what I was told. You got some of the best lamb in the whole island, you know, because I know a couple weeks ago I was invited up to a thing. Madam Chair, can I finish up?
Sure.
I was invited up to a thing up Government House, and they pull out some lamb papa. The thing them small like my finger, hardly no meat on them. I hope that they next time call you and get them lamb chops from you, because I showed them with some expensive lamb, it had no meat on them. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Fonseca. You know, when you come to these meetings, once Senator Fonseca here, you always have a good opportunity for a good laugh. And it's always good to have a light moment when we're dealing with these serious matters. So I want to thank you for your comments this morning. Senator James, you're recognized for your 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Virgin Islands. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, testifiers. First, I want to express my thanks to Dale and Yvette Brown because of just taking this mantle and carrying this on your back. It's like carrying, like Atlas in a sense. Mm-hmm. And you've done so much for us here on St. Croix. I know with everything you said in your testimony you've been doing so much more, that and so much more. But you know, since I am a real estate person, and the lease agreement is concerning to me that you would come here today and there is a discrepancy in exactly what you're leasing. That's a problem, especially when we're saying that agriculture land is so important. And I just want to start by asking you let me ask this. 9B is what you presently occupy and possess, correct?
9P is what we're on, that we've been on for the past 15 years.
And so you're renewing that lease?
We had never got a lease for 9P. This is our first time coming forward to get the lease. We have been just waiting for our lease this long.
Waiting this long?
Yes.
Okay, and now you're adding 9B.
9B, we acquired about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because okay. In my memory too, I'm thinking.
Yes.
I've been hearing you talk about both plots or
Yes.
parcels. So are they contiguous or adjacent?
Adjacent. There's a farmer between both properties.
Oh, there's a farmer between you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Have you already started to work on the one that is not covered today?
We started the cleaning process. The Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture started the process of cleaning the land, but due to their machine shut down, that was put on a hold. We're hoping to get that process restarted before the end of this year because we have some plans to continue the development.
How has I understand from my staffer, Mr. Mercado, that not having a lease affects your ability to get grants. Is there a relationship between that?
Yes, there is a restriction.
Explain it to so people understand the significance of having a lease agreement.
Many of the programs we do, we seek granting additional funding through granting through USDA, NRCS, and the different agencies. And those agencies require us to provide our lease agreement to ensure that the property we are under contract to have the property and do the development on the property. For 15 years, we have been struggling and having to get a renewed letter of giving us the temporary right to go ahead and use the property because of the hold-up on the lease agreement. And so it infringe upon that portion of getting approval for certain grants because we do not have that. Certain grants, we just can't get it at all because we have to have a
30
lease
seconds.
agreement.
Yeah, I really want to stress that because if we in the Virgin Islands are not providing you with the funds you need, we are now denying you also, we're not helping you directly and we're adversely impacting you indirectly by not giving you a lease in a timely manner because then you can't get funding from other sources, correct?
Yes.
So, I want to impress on the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Property and Procurement, if we're serious about agriculture, we need to understand that all the pieces need to be in place in order for agriculture to happen. And we can't be putting barriers in the place in front of farmers every single time and business people. Just like any other business person that needs to present a lease of their premises in order for someone to recognize that they have possession and the right. You also need to have a lease in place to prove to others that you have the right to seek whatever grants you're seeking. I want to ask, I think you mentioned before, though, that I wanted to find out, because I'm the chair of the Education Committee, and I think you did say, you do have a summer camp, because I want to stress that also.
Yes. Every summer for the past 4 years, we take in 40 students. Some of the students come through the Department of Labor. The other 20 students come through a program that we do. We apply for a grant through LEPC, and if we get the grant, the funding cover. Whether or not we get the grant, we carry out the program. The program consists of 20 students, like I said, between the age of 10 to 18, and then the summer program, the Department of Labor, they provide their students for skill 14 to 15, that we do skill training with them. And what we do with those students for the 6 weeks of program, they're not allowed to bring anything with them to eat on campus.
Oh, wow.
They come with their hands empty, other than if they bring a bottle of water. We provide everything those students eat for 6 weeks. Their food are farm-to-table meals, their lunch, and their snacks are whatever fruits are in season locally. That's what their snacks are. No potato chips, no candy, no nothing. They pay $100 registration, that's it. That's all they paid, regardless of whether we have the grant and funding or not to cover it. We cover those costs. We allocate their resources, their food, from all the small farmers that we work with throughout the island, and that comprise of their lunch, from chicken, fresh goat, fresh lamb,
Wow.
everything for those 6 weeks. The students do a 6-week course from seed to table. That means we teach them how to plant their own seed and how to harvest the food from that seed. But we also have a culinary side where the children goes into the kitchen with the chefs that are preparing lunch, and they also work with those chefs to learn how to prepare those lunch and how to prepare meals from the stuff they're growing in the field. So they get an all-around agricultural development and a culinary skill set for the summer. Every child that leaves the summer program leave with a Serve Safe certificate. That certificate is better than having a health card that's distributed by the Virgin Islands Department of Health.
I agree. I just want to thank you for what you do, because like you said, you still do it even if you don't get the money to do. I'm not a committee member, but when it gets to where I am, in the Rules Committee, I definitely will, and in the full session, support. I just hope that before it gets there, that we find some way to include the other plot 9B, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thank Mr. Harrison for his work that he's doing, because after 15 years to finally be here to get the lease I wasn't going to be here today, but my husband said, you have to be here. This has been 15 years. And I understand his position. I'm just hoping that the 9B, the lease, we don't have to wait another 15 years to come before you to get that second part allocated and approved.
Yeah, I don't think we will. Madam, I didn't have any other questions for the other business, because clearly that business also needs a long-term lease for stability, as he stated in his testimony. Madam Chair, as you can see, we need to make this happen by somehow getting the other plot included, and thank you for allowing me the time.
Thank you, Senator James. I think that Senator Blyden set the precedent for the 8 minutes today. So we're going to keep going. I want to get back to the leases very quickly before I go to Senator Carrion. So I'm looking at the post-audit report that was conducted for these two leases that's before us. And I'm going to start with Mr. Victor. So Mr. Victor, or I probably need to ask the Assistant Commissioner Richards about the documentation, because in order for us to approve these leases that's before us, there is certain documentation that must be provided to this committee. And I'm seeing that the business license for Romina Construction LLC, this is based on the post-audit report. Hopefully the post-audit division requested the additional information and didn't only look at what was in the file, but actually picked up the phone and called to get the additional information from the Department of Property and Procurement. So we're about to find that out, right? So the business license says that the expiration is 10/13 of 2023. That is long gone. What's the status of the business license for Romina Construction LLC?
Vincent Richards for Property and Procurement. Senator, all the testifiers, all the businesses before us today are current on their business licenses and current on their certificate of good standing. I believe this week our staff reached out to these individuals, and they have forwarded the documents, and they're listening now, and they're going to re-forward them again to Ms. Russell. So before the end of, by 12 o'clock, you'll have all copies of their current business licenses, insurance, and everything.
Okay, so the business license, the trade name registration, that's not applicable in all instances, correct?
Business licenses as well as certificate of good standings and insurance are all current. All current.
Okay, all current. So let me ask you about liability insurance. I'm learning that many of our insurance, brokers here are having a challenge with issuing certificate of liability insurance. Have you been experiencing businesses who's trying to attain leases from the government having challenges with getting liability insurance?
Senator, one of the biggest challenges with agricultural leases is getting maps, current maps of their current locations. That's one of our biggest challenges. And the second one is getting liability insurance for these kind of operations. We have been in communications with the Department of Agriculture. We've been in communication with the Lieutenant Governor's office and the insurance industry to see if, and even the USDA to see if there's some way of bridging that gap, whether it be by changing the limits and or something else.
So specifically, there is a challenge
Yes.
with getting liability insurance in the territory for businesses right now. And I'm not certain what the discussions are with the Lieutenant Governor's office, but we do know that this is not unique to the Virgin Islands. This is something that's happening throughout the country, right? But before I stay on the liability matter, so you're affirming that the business license for Saja Farms is up to date, the trade name registration, the certificate of liability insurance, because that says 4/18/24, and the certificate of good standing is all up to date.
Yes, Senator. I was just checking my phone and going through my email, and I saw the staff did request the updated documents from all these individuals, and they did transmit them.
Okay, so we'll look forward to getting that information. If you can ask them, you said that they sent them over already to my office?
They're going to send them. They're going to resend them.
No, let's be clear, because that's two different things.
They're supposed to send them. I'm going to make sure they're sent by 12 o'clock, Senator.
Okay, so they need to send them over, please, because in order for us to make an informed decision, this is part of the requirement. So I asked the question specifically around the insurance because in the instances of the farming business, what is the purpose of the insurance, the liability insurance?
Senator, the government of the Virgin Islands owns the property, and by extension is responsible for what happens on the property and to any individual that steps foot on the property. So, God forbid anything happens, it's to protect the government insurance to not be liable or to be protected if something happens, if there's a claim, God forbid.
And in their instances, if there are instances when individuals are not able to get insurances because of the direction that the market is doing, is there any discussion on the government's end as to how they propose, how we as a government, how the executive branch proposes to ensure that these businesses are able to move forward as far as indemnification? I don't know, but these are discussions that need to be had because there is a challenge with liability insurance in the territory. Have we?
The departments are aware. I'm not prepared today to answer that policy question.
Well, that's something that we need to explore. So I am prepared to explore that, with the Banking and Insurance Division. All right. I had a note here. So, Mr. Victor, tell me, how many employees do you employ in the Romina Construction LLC?
Currently, we have 12.
Put your name on the record one more time.
Gemelad Victor. And currently, we have 12 employees.
Currently, you have 12 employees. And do you have any contracts with the government of the Virgin Islands?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay. Mr. or Mrs. Brown, same question.
Currently, myself and Mr. Brown are only 2 full-time employees. We have on a regular where, based on our production and harvesting, we bring in part-time employees for a certain period based on the product that we're putting in for production. So we do, we carry out, our workload is carried out through part-time employees.
Okay. All right. And one more thing before I go to Senator Carrion. So we've been discussing this matter with regards to the Department of Property and Procurement and the Department of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture working on the leases, and then the Department of Property and Procurement coming before the Senate to defend the leases. I think today is a good example of why we need to close that delta. Because once they send the leases over, you know what you have in front of you, but you don't know the intricate details. And this is for you, Mr. Richards. Are you in agreement that you may not necessarily know the intricate details of the leases that's tied to agriculture in particular? What are your thoughts around that current process? I mean, we've discussed it many times, but we haven't seen any changes occurring around it, and I'm certain that it creates much frustration with the farmers in particular. I think there was a comment made that Ms. Brown made that says that they don't want to wait another 15 years, which is not within your control.
Senator, I support the current structure until it's mutually adjusted. It will not take 15 years to make the adjustment that's being requested here.
But were you aware?
Was I aware of the additional request?
Correct.
No, I wasn't.
That's the point. That's the point. Like, because, and I say that's the point because if you're aware, it just makes sense for them to be able to move forward with their work. I know they're probably already clearing the property, but they're not legitimately on the property per se because there's not an approved lease. I know usually you guys would probably do a 1-year lease. I don't know if that's the case in this instance, but there is a level of frustration because when you want to expand your business in a certain manner, you just want to do it and move forward. So while I hear you rather, because I don't agree, that you support the current structure as, you know, the executive branch, as the other side of the table, I just don't see it as a structure for efficiency. You may respond.
Vincent Richards. Senator, I understand, I agree with your perspective. Again, I repeat again, there is a document that's before us and before this body that has attachments to it, that has maps attached to it, that has proof of the government ownership, and all the parties that agreed to this agreement has signed this agreement and initialed all the pages on this agreement. So they've attested to it. If there was a conversation or a thought or a desire afterwards to amend it, there wasn't anything in writing to the Department of Property and Procurement that said that this wanted to be changed. A mere desire is a mere desire. When you put pen to paper and say this is what you want to do, this is what we do. So I stand by the document and the package, the full and complete package that we have before us today.
I didn't expect you not to stand by it because this was before us. But the question on the table is, do the Browns know that they had an opportunity, an option to write to the Department of Property and Procurement, or is it that they do all of their paperwork, et cetera, with the Department of Agriculture? I mean, we don't need to go back and forth on it. It's clearly the system that we have in place has a challenge. There are challenges around it. And our job is to make doing business with the government easier. So I see a delta, and I heard it in their voice that they are challenged by what's, the fact that they don't have the other extension today. But we will follow up on it for them because that's part of our job as well, right? I'm going to go to Senator Carrion. Today is definitely going to be a shorter day than we expected. Senator Carrion, you're recognized for your 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Already still morning to you, my colleagues, testifiers, the viewing and listening audience. I must say I couldn't agree more with you in this instance in regards to identifying where the challenges are so that we can correct this problem. Because clearly we shouldn't have individuals waiting so long to be able to get a lease agreement. But I want to commend the Browns for your persistence and perseverance, and truly is a demonstration of your commitment to the territory, but also to the industry of agriculture and its revitalization. So thank you so much for not giving up. and continuing the fight. Since we're still in this line, I just would like to ask Assistant Commissioner Richards, what would be now the process in order to add on the 9B Estate VI Corp section that is not included in this instance?
Vincent Richards. To add on, if you wanted to add on, you would have to reject this document, send it back through the entire process, and start all over again. What's an alternative is approving the current document, and then we can amend it to add the additional property afterwards in a very short order. That would have to go back through the process as well, but it'll be much quicker and easier the latter way as opposed to the first suggestion of starting entirely over.
Gotcha. So your recommendation, of course, to this body is if this body feels fit to approve, accept what we have before us, and then add an amendment, I guess, and bring forward the second part. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And just for the viewing and listening audience, and for our identification also, and others that might be in the same train, if we could say, how is this process? If you can just elaborate a little bit, how is this process?
We're talking specifically about an agricultural lease, sir?
Yes, sir.
A farmer would approach the Department of Agriculture. They will determine the area that they want to use. It'd be surveyed and mapped out, and then the terms would be established in terms of the length of the lease agreement between them and the Department of Agriculture, and what kind of activities were going to be happening on the property. The rate is codified in the VI code, so that's pretty simple. And then they will just basically submit all their documentation to our Department of Agriculture. Agriculture was transmitted to the Department of Property and Procurement. We'll review it, make sure it's legally sufficient, and then we'll execute it and then send it to the Department of Justice and the Governor's Office for consideration, ratification, and then it's transmitted
30 seconds.
Then it'll be transmitted to the VI legislature thereafter for consideration.
Very well. And in a perfect scenario, when the lessee has all the necessary documentations, license, insurance, good standing, etc., what would be the length of time that this process would take?
Senator, in the last 12 months, after this, in the last 12 months, 6 to 9 months is realistic.
6 to 9 months will be the maximum length of time.
From beginning to end, Senator. Pardon me for speaking over you.
Very well. And lastly, Madam Chair, if I may, where do you see that, where's the gap? Where are we falling short in delivering and executing these type of contracts? For instance, in this case that we've had these two individuals that have been dedicated, demonstrated for 15 years and been waiting for this lease. Where we have to improve to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Senator, capacity. The Department of Agriculture needs more administrative capacity to process leases. The system is not perfect, but it's good and it's getting better every day. In this committee, you can see the tempo of leases that move through this committee, and in the last 36 months, quite frankly, there were times when you guys were telling me I was sending too much leases down here. I'm down here a little too often. So it's good, but it's getting better. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But to answer your question specifically, is more administrative capacity for packaging and processing of lease agreements in the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you for sharing that, and I hope that we can really dig deep and see how we can find a solution so that this won't happen again. And Mr. Brown, Ms. Brown, if you can, on the chair's time, can you express the importance of this and if you have had some consequences before for not having the lease and what this would mean for you? Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
What this has done, what this is going to do for us is give us the leverage so that when we go before the different agencies such as USDA and other platforms, or even philanthropy grants and stuff like that, or any programs that we gear at to develop in the agricultural arena, that we are not told we don't have the correct documents to showcase that we have the approval to use the land. A letter of temporary use is no longer being accepted, and that was a big challenge for us recently in a program that we were doing, that we had to go back and forth and beg to get approval because we do not have a lease on hand. And I can't wrap my hand around the reason for all these years why we never got our lease approved. But I'm very, and like I said, I'm very thankful to Mr. Assistant Commissioner Harris for the work that he is doing and bringing us to the table today. Richardson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Assistant Commissioner Richardson, for your name. I am thankful for that because, like I said, 15 years is a long wait. And it has put a lot of blockage in the process to get where we are today. But having this opportunity, we are grateful. And because of that, we are, like you said, we will take the lease for 9P today, if approved, and hope that within a few months that we can get the second lease approved so that we could have a combine of the both lease, because both properties have been paid for and we have been paying for both properties and keeping up our payments to make sure that we have the lease.
Thank you for your response. Senator Fonseca, you recognize for your point of information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Franklin, just a couple quick questions here. You involved with road paving with federal contracts?
Franklin Victor, yes, Senator.
Okay. I want you to explain me something. What is there any particular degree that asphalt starts to melt? In other words, what temperature, surface temperature, that asphalt starts to melt or decompose? Do you know what that temperature is?
Franklin Victor, we don't do asphalt, we do concrete.
Okay, so your federal contracts are all concrete?
Concrete.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Just let's go back to the leases. So, Mr. Richards, Mr. Vincent Richards. So, in the post-audit report, I'm seeing that the lease in particular for the Romina Construction LLC was signed on August 11th of 2023 by the Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement, by Mr. Ian S. Clement of the Department of Justice on 8/14 of 2023, and by the Honorable Governor Albert Bryan Jr. On August 28th of 2023. We received these leases. When did we receive these leases? Less than a month ago. What is the problem? What's the problem? I mean, the concern that was heard here is a legitimate concern. The governor signed it. I thought that the governor was the last signature before it comes down to the legislature. Was there an issue that they had to go back? What's the issue?
Vincent Richard for Department of Property and Procurement. Senator, honestly, I truly can't, I cannot explain what happens after Lisa M. Alejandro signs the document and it leaves the Department of Property and Procurement.
August 28, 2023. And we continue to talk about challenges with generating revenues. That's what we do. That's what we do. How long have you been waiting for this lease to be approved, Mr. Romina?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
It's
started.
close to a year. Oh, sorry.
It's more than a year.
Sorry. Gemilad Victor. So it's close to a year we've been waiting for the
Yeah.
lease.
This lease has been signed by the governor since August of 2023. We are how much months shy of August? 3 months shy of August, 1 year. I don't understand. I don't understand what happens in government. I know that you can't answer those questions because, like you said, once it leaves the Department of Property, but is there a follow-up process in your office?
Vincent Richards for Department of Property and Procurement. Yes, there is. I mean, there is. I follow up with the executive branch. I follow up with the legislative branch. I follow up with everybody to try to get it to move through the process.
Okay. I see that the one for the Browns was signed by Louis Peterson on February of 24, February 8 by Commissioner of Property and Procurement, February 21st of 24, Assistant Attorney General, February 29th, and by the Governor on 3/7.
Progress.
Not enough.
I'll work on it. I
Not
promise.
enough progress. These folks need to be able to move on with their businesses. Let me take this opportunity to recognize committee member Senator Novalee Francis Jr., our Senate President. Please mark Mr. Senate President Novalee Francis Jr. as present, as he is the vice chair of this committee. But before I go to Senator Francis, let me just ask, because we are going to close out this section, the annual production, the Browns, this is for the Browns. What's your current annual production? You talked about production and the inability of the Virginals to identify or collect data on annual productions. What's the annual production of your farm currently, and what are you proposing as additional production as a result of the additional lease, the additional acreage that you're seeking?
Good afternoon, Dale Brown. We have several enterprises on the farm. Two of the main enterprises are crop production and livestock production. Currently, we want to increase the crop production by at least 25 to 30%. And for the livestock, we want to increase that by 50%. That takes a significant toll in increasing livestock because now you need to retrofit or put in the infrastructure required to maintain that livestock and to maintain the animal health. We are looking forward towards using the 16 acres, that's like the expansion of 9B, to do that. And doing so will require an infrastructure that is going to maintain these animals and their health for harvest and consumption.
Okay, so that's a good segue for me to ask, what is your investment, your improvement investment on the property that we are seeking to approve today?
That investment is going to run anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000.
$50,000 to $60,000.
Correct.
All right. Same question for you, Mr. Mr. Victor. Your investment, I think I saw there's a number in there in the lease, but what is your investment in the actual build out of the property?
Franklin Victor Romina Construction, we are expecting to invest another $100,000 to upgrade the
What's your
property.
total investment? 'Cause I think I see that the lease says,
To date, it's $100,000.
so that's mean you have to invest another 250, because I think the lease says 350. Did you see that? Mr. Richards, that's what the lease have in it?
Senator, the lease has an estimated $250,000 $250,000 investment. It's on subsection 4.01.
Okay.
I guess Mr. Romina says he's already, Mr. Victor has already invested 100. He said he plans to invest approximately another 100,000.
Okay, so it's basically an estimate.
Yes, Senator, it is an
What does
estimate.
the language in the lease say?
The language in the lease says improvements. As per the consideration of the agreement, the lessee shall provide at its own expense, cost and expense, the following improvements owned by the lessee at an estimated cost of $250,000.
That's the operative word, estimated cost.
Correct.
All right, perfect. So,
Good
like you said,
question.
another 100,000. All right, thank you. I'm going to now go to Senator Francis Novelli Francis Jr. Recognized for your 4 minutes.
I check 1, 2. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Actually, good afternoon to you, to the colleagues, of course, to the testifiers and the people of the Virgin Islands. I apologize for my delayed presence. As you know, I have attended the naming of the Aloy Winty Nielsen bypass this morning, and I want to take this opportunity as well to thank Senator Blyden for presenting these lease agreements on my behalf in my absence. I certainly support the both leases that's before us this morning, and as well as heard the conversation in respect to the timeliness or untimeliness in this instance of the approval of the lease. 15 years is certainly unacceptable for these leases to move forward. Even 1 year is unacceptable for us to move forward. However, I think it's critical that we work within the government to make sure that we're working towards improving and closing those gaps that is really distracting for individuals that endeavor to continue to do business here. In respect to the farming lease, is something that I appreciate. You know, the tremendous amount of work that this body have done in regards to farming. You yourself, Madam Chair, is involved in making sure that you're moving legislation to support our farming industry. I had recent conversation with the Director of Office of Management, where there was an earmark of the budget for the purpose of providing additional funding that should be utilized for land preparation, land security, and purchasing of equipment and other means to support our farmers. And I'm not seeing that being expended to the level that it should be, and I'll certainly be reaching out to the Commissioner of Agriculture as we endeavor to move this forward. I wanted to thank Mr. Dale Brown and Yvette, my classmate, for, as a matter of fact, we're celebrating 40 years this year for graduating from high school. But I wanted to thank them for their involvement in the farming and continue to do the hard work put forth as in regards to the improvement of their farm. And I could see where there have been tremendous incremental improvement being made, and your level of patience is as good as Job. Because 50 years is a long time to wait it out. But what is your vision? What is it that you look to, outside of this 15 or even the 16 acres? What is it in the real world that you would like to see happen? Where would you like to see your farming production go to?
Dale Brown, Senator, we oftentimes take this farming as a passion. But passion can wane. Passion can go away because of different type of struggle. At this time, We are passionate, but we're on a mission. And that's a difference. Because in this vision, the mission is to see the Virgin Islands become productive
30 seconds.
in food development. And when I say productive in food development, I am looking at the past and what the Virgin Islands has done for countries or for Denmark in giving Denmark its status today. So what it is that is hindering us from doing likewise. So the vision is for Seja Farm to be
Time.
that model where other farms can actually look towards not the status quo that was set over the years, but give farms the opportunity and the leverage to build themselves with an infrastructure that sustain the development of the island's agriculture.
Thank you very much for that. Madam Chair, I heard my time call. Can I just conclude on 2 points real quickly, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we have our responsibility in terms of government as well. I mean, we have the issue with the abattoir, for example, something that continue to create some problems around here. When we talk about the availability of water, we see what's happening here with the heat that we're experiencing in these early months. And, God forbid what's going to happen in the months to come if we don't have adequate water. We have the challenges with pesticides and insects and all kind of thing that could wipe out your entire investment in no time. So we understand the challenges that you're involved in, and we have to do our part as a government to be able to support that industry. I really want to wrap up real quickly to also ask Mr. Franklin, Victor, what is his vision? What is it that he would like to see happen in terms of his business acumen as well? Where do you intend to take your industry as you invest another $100,000 into your business? What is it that you like to see happening, and how do you believe the government could support you in that endeavor?
Jamilat Victor. So with that, once that lease is approved, it helps us to store the materials that we use to do construction, because most times we buy material from out of St. Thomas, and it's more affordable when we buy bulk like that, so we can store it in the yard. And when we're doing affordable housing, that helps us so that our price can be competitive. So the yard is really going to help us if we can, get that lease. It helps.
Awesome.
Very well, thank you. My time has been called. I also want to conclude by thanking the Assistant Commissioner Richards. I know that sometimes these are heavy lift, and we browbeat you, but we appreciate the work that you're doing to move some of these leases forward, and we look forward to a continued relationship so that we could be able to bring additional monies into the revenue base and coffers of this government. So thank you for your work there, and thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the time. And I ask for my colleagues' support in moving these measures forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Francis, for your comments. And I do agree that the work that Mr. Richards is doing at the Department of Property and Procurement is a heavy lift. I find myself from time to time calling to assist constituents with, moving their leases along, but of course, they also have to provide the necessary information in order for the Department of Property and Procurement to move these leases along. So it's a two-part relationship that has to occur. I just hope that we can, we've been talking about this for a while, that we can really streamline the work, streamline the process, so some of the frustration can be eliminated, but the businesses definitely need to understand that, there is a process, and the process has to be followed. All right, so there was one measure that was taken off of the agenda just for the sake of my colleagues that came late, and that measure is tied to Bill number 35-0262, which is to support the dredging of the soft costs for Charlotte Amalie. There was no one that came. The members of the representatives from the Virgin Port Authority was here. They came to testify in support, of course, of moving this project along. Mr. Dow made a passionate plea that, the longer it takes for this to move forward and the longer it takes for us to get things moving as far as the dredging is concerned. However, no one from the government side, Mr. Kevin McCurdy who is the executive director of the Virgin Islands Public Finance Authority, was invited to the meeting, and when he was called this morning, he indicated that he thought that the meeting was canceled for whatever reason. And I'm going to get to what I believe he might think is a reason. So we're going to keep these folks here just a little longer before we make the motions to move forward with these measures. But apparently there was a letter sent to my attention on May 15th, to my attention and my attention only, which is unusual, by the governor. So this, no access to my emails, that says that the governance financial team will not be coming to today's meeting once again to provide testimony on the status of the FY 2024 appropriations versus the allotments and the revenues, etc. He did say, though, that they just got through with the revenue estimating conference, and there is a legislation that I actually passed when I became a senator first in 2019, which requires the government to do a mid-year review of the current fiscal year budget to determine whether the current year's revenues align with the appropriations made for that year. And he indicated that they're working to provide that information. I can't specifically remember what date the revenue estimating conference was, but that information is to be provided 1 month later. So we are going to respect the legislation that says that the information is to be provided 1 month later, so we can have an idea of what 1 month later after the revenue estimating conferences. Can anybody tell me when that date was? I can't remember when the revenue estimating conference was. The date? May 7th. So we're going to look forward to June 7th. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to take night and make day to make sure that we get the information for 2024 before we drill down into 25. So when the governance financial team come, I think the date is to be June 6th. We may have to make some changes. I will ask the indulgence of the president so we can make sure that we are killing two birds with one stone, so we could get this work done and so we could understand truly what's the status of the government's finances here in the territory, our expenditures, because there are lots of vendors, lots of services that folks are pulling out of because they're not being paid. And our job is to make sure that we have an understanding of what's going on and make the necessary changes, adjustments, etc., or provide the necessary support. So we are prepared to do that. So I'm not going to belabor this matter any longer. Based on that, I don't know if we need to make an amendment. Somebody needs to help me out with that as to what we need to do as far as what's on the agenda in Block 2. So there's no action for Block 2, so we don't need to make any changes. But there's something that I need to do before we get to the vote. And then we're going to do the vote, and then we're going to close the meeting. Today is the last day to file and submit your intent to run for office with the Board of Elections for the 2024 elections. And I think it's important that I advise, or I share this afternoon, all right, that I want to inform the community and my colleagues that I will not be seeking re-election in the upcoming 2024 election cycle. I came to this decision after careful reflection and discussion with family members, friends, supporters, and constituents. After 37 years of public service, the last 6 of which I have been a member of this body. And I know that now I am ready to write a new chapter by continuing to be of service to the people of the Virgin Islands in a different forum and in a different role. I will also be using this time to spend more time with my 91-year-old mother, who will be 92 in August of this year. But be assured that although I am not seeking re-election, my journey is far from over, and there is much work to be done before my term expires in January. And if you know me, you know I plan to use every day I have left in the 34th legislature, the 35th legislature, to fight, to push for the causes I hold dear and those causes that are dear to the people. I will be seeking out new and exciting ways to give back to my community. I do have a foundation, the DFG Community Impact Foundation, of which I'll be working hard to continue the work there. But rest assured, my service to the Virgin Islands and our people will not end with my Senate term. I will continue to be the voice for accountability and remain committed to the principle that government works best when we put our collective heads together and leave our egos at the door. I am so proud of what I have been able to accomplish along with my colleagues during my time as senator. 6 years ago, around June of 2018, when I announced my bid for the 33rd legislature, I said to you, the people of the Virgin Islands, that I would focus on results that would benefit all Virgin Islanders, not just a few. And I have kept that promise by focusing on sponsoring and co-sponsoring legislation, focus on improving the way of life for the people of this territory. And just here's a small few things that I have worked on with my colleagues, of course, sponsoring the landmark legislation to create a funding source for the government employees retirement system, sponsoring legislation for the rights of victims of crime and domestic violence, ensuring funding for WAPA while ensuring and insisting oversight of which we have yet to see come to fruition. Re-establishing the Tax Study Commission. We know that many of our businesses here continue to talk about their challenges with the gross receipt taxes and the fact that we need to look at our tax structure here in the Virgin Islands, which have yet to come to fruition. We've done our work here. I've also worked diligently with my colleagues, which it failed 2 times before we were able to pass it, which was creating the agency dedicated to the maintenance of our schools, which has yet to come to fruition. Ensuring adequate funding for our student athletes and strengthening our economic development program to attract investors and broadening our revenue base. And one of the things I'm very excited about is the fact that we were able, under my leadership, to ensure that the Island District of St. John in particular, their capital projects are now only used for capital projects and not to haul trash from St. John to St. Thomas. Securing and supporting funding for capital improvements include many capital improvements. One that's notable that I really want to see started is the Sugar Estate Repair Project. Also the site planning for the Red Hook Sports Complex in St. Thomas, which is very much needed. And sponsoring legislation for government employees to support their long overdue retroactive wages, securing retirees' bonuses, and paying retirees their retroactive annual bonuses as well, and the University of the Virgin Islands long overdue retroactive wages from since 1994 and prior, and just so much more. But another hour and another place, there will be plenty of time for me to reminisce and have remembrance of all the good work that I've done with my colleagues. And I'm looking forward to the work ahead as we work on the 2025 budget cycle and focus on my legislative agenda to the end of this term. But before I end and go back to the matter at hand, I would like to make one thing absolutely and abundantly clear. Although I'm leaving the Senate, and today is the last day to file your intent, I am not leaving the people of the Virgin Islands. I am not going anywhere. I will remain a fierce advocate for good government and sound public policy in the Virgin Islands when my term ends. I will continue to be that person you can count on. Thank you to the people of the Virgin Islands, particularly those of the St. Thomas St. John District, for your confidence in allowing me to represent you for the past 3 terms. It has been a privilege and an absolute honor. I will continue to do the work to secure results that benefits all Virgin Islanders, not just a few. So I want to thank you. I wanted to do this today because it's filing date and I have not sent out anything, and I think it's important for me to let the community know that I am not going to be on the ballot this time, but I will continue to be that person for the people of the Virgin Islands. So do I hear a motion? Senator Francis?
Motion.
You may proceed, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and colleagues. I move that Bill number 35-0261, an act approving the lease agreement between the government of the Virgin Islands and Dale Brown and Yvette Brown doing business as Sage Farms of the Virgin Islands for plot number 9-P, Estate VI Court Lands, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, Virgin Islands, be approved by the Committee of Budget, Appropriations, and Finance, and sent forward to the Rules and Judiciary Committee for further vetting. I so move.
Senator Marvin A. Blyden.
One second. Bill number 35-026. Bill number 35-0261 has been properly moved by Senator Novalee Francis Jr., seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca and Senator Marvin Blyden. Hearing no objections, roll call, please.
Senator Marvin A. Blyden. Yea. Senator Blyden, yea. Senator Samuel Carrion.
Yes.
Senator Carrion, yea. Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff. Senator DeGraff, absent. Senator Ray Fonseca. Yea. Senator Fonseca, yea. Senator Donna A. Fred Gregory.
Yes.
Senator Fred Gregory, yea. Senator Nobel E. Francis Jr.
Yea.
Senator Francis Jr., yea. Senator Javon E. James Sr.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Senator James Sr., yea. Madam Chair, 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bill number 35-0261, an act approving the lease agreement between the government of the Virgin Islands and Dale Brown and Yvette Brown doing business as Sage Farm of the Virgin Islands for plot number 9-P, Estate VI Corp Lands, Prince Quarter, St. Croix, Virgin Islands, has been favorably approved by this committee and will be forwarded to the Rules Committee for further consideration and action. Thank you. Do I have a motion? Senator Francis Jr., recognize your motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and colleagues, I move that Bill number 35-0255, an act approving the multi-year lease agreement between the government of the Virgin Islands, acting through its Commissioner of Department of Property and Procurement, and Romania Construction LLC for parcel number 92A, revised submarine base number 6, Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to operate equipment and material storage depot, yard, construction company office, and other related purposes be approved by the Committee of Budget, Appropriations, and Finance and sent to the Rules and Judiciary Committee for further vetting and consideration. I so move.
Bill number 35-0255 has been properly moved by Senator Novalee Francis Jr., seconded by Javon James Sr., Senator Marvin Blyden, and Senator Ray Fonseca. Hearing no objections, roll call, please.
Senator Marvin A. Blyden. Yea. Senator Blyden, yea. Senator Samuel Carrion.
Yes.
Senator Carrion, yea. Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff. Senator DeGraff, absent. Senator Ray Fonseca. Yea. Senator Fonseca, yea. Senator Donna A. Fred Gregory.
Yes.
Senator Fred Gregory, yea. Senator Novell E. Francis Jr.
Yea.
Senator Francis Jr., yea. Senator Javon E. James Sr.
Yes.
Senator James Sr., yea. Madam Chair, 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bill number 35-0255, an act approving the multi-lease agreement between the Government of the Virgin Islands, acting through its Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement, and Romina Construction, LLC, for parcel number 92A, revised, submarine base number 6, Southside Quarter, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to operate an equipment and materials storage depot yard, construction company office, and for other related purposes, has been favorably approved by this committee and will be forwarded to the Rules Committee for further consideration and action. Thank you. I will give the testifiers an opportunity to give a 30-second close, but let me just say congratulations on, finally getting to that hurdle, and I'm certain that, based on the testimony that we received today from you, these leases will both be approved when it gets to the Rules Committee and to the whole body. So I look forward to voting yes on these 2 leases as before us. We're going to start with Mr. Romina, your 30-second, or whomever. Miss, I keep saying Mr. Romina. It's Mr. We're going to have to change your name. We don't change your whole name today. We apologize. Mrs. Victor, you may proceed with the 30-second close.
Jemalat Victor, I want to say thank you for voting to approve the lease. We're very grateful because it's really going to help us. It's something that we've always, wanted, and so we're so grateful. And I also want to thank you, Madam Senator, for your time, also for everything that you have done for the Virgin Islands. I mean, you talked about the gross receipt, and I can say that we felt before now it used to be very difficult. The license was tied to it, even if you probably couldn't pay a month of your gross receipt, you couldn't get the license. So it used to be very difficult, and I know that for the past 4 years, it has changed. So I can say that, that work that you did, you and the rest of the senator, that, we felt the impact. So we're very grateful and for every other thing that you have done. And I pray that, God will continue to be with you in everything that you want to do. And I also appreciate the fact that you said you're going to take care of your 91-year-old mom, That is something that we see children here. They don't really, take care of their parents. They leave them, they go away, and sometimes this parent just here, they suffer. There's nobody to, care for them. So I really appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you. Have me tearing up a little bit. All right, Miss Brown or Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Brown is the spokesperson today, right? The lady.
He's thrown me under the bus. Yvette Brown, Sage of Farm of the Virgin Islands. I just want to take this time to thank this committee on the behalf of Sage of Farm for bringing us to this fruition at this time after 15 years. And thank you to the Assistant Commissioner for getting our lease put together and finalized to be brought before the committee. Our work will move forward and we are looking forward to speedy action with the second portion of the lease property. As a matter of fact, I am having faith that in the next 2 months, we're going to be called before this committee to approve the next piece of the lease. But that's just my say. Thank you, Senator Fred Gregory, for your work and your dedication to the people of the Virgin Islands. I wish you great success in your future endeavor and also in your work in taking care of your mom, something that I no longer have the privilege of doing. So having your mother around is such an essential piece of our lifespan. So good luck and Godspeed with you in that. And again, once again, thank you to everyone that has made this a success for us today and approving our lease.
Thank you for your kind words. Senator Fonseca, point of personal privilege,
Yes.
and then we're going to close the meeting and know that we got FY25 budget to contend with.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to also add that, to the people of the Virgin Islands, Madam Chair Donna Fred Gregory, Senator Donna Fred Gregory, has a unique combination of skill set and experience that is extremely rare in the Virgin Islands. It's been a tremendous pleasure working with Senator Donna Fred Gregory. Her leadership skills is impeccable. Her ability to concentrate and get the work is just beyond, repute. And it's been such a pleasure working with Donna Fred Gregory. And I'm so happy to learn that she is not going to leave the Virgin Islands. In fact, she's going to continue to serve the people of the Virgin Islands in whatever capacity the good Lord bless us. So I am wishing an abundance of blessings and praises upon our Madam Chair. And thank you and best of luck in all your future endeavors.
Thank you, Senator Fonseca, for those kind words. Just know that we are only in May. The legislature closing in January. We got a lot of work to do. We have our budget before us, and I am super excited to work on the FY25 budget. I worked on the 24 budget, and that was a heavy lift, and we know that we have challenges as we move forward. So it's our fervent hope that the information that was shared in the revenue estimating conference as it relates to these projects coming online, that we see these projects because we really need the revenues to ramp up in the Virgin Islands. So we've allowed everybody to close, and without further ado, let me just thank my colleagues for allowing me the indulgence of sharing the fact that it's just so interesting that today is the last day. So I said I would take the opportunity to, advise that I won't be putting in another bid for the Senate, at least not this year. So without further ado, we've accomplished most of what we wanted to accomplish today. There's still a lot more to do, and hopefully we'll get the information from the government's financial team to make a determination as to whether or not there's any action that's required of the legislature, because it's important for us to make sure that once we appropriate those dollars, if the revenues are not showing, that there's some sort of action that's occurring. So we look forward to getting that information, and we will figure out how we can combine those two meetings and get this moving forward for 2025. Without further ado, the Committee on Budget Appropriations and Finance is hereby adjourned.